In the previous video, we explored 10 signs of emotional maturity. If you missed it, by the way, here it is. Today, we'll uncover the remaining 10 signs of emotional maturity. Ready? Let's go. Falling in love becomes a little different. When you were younger, you could be smitten in an instant. Now you know that no matter how charming someone is, they're still a real person, wonderful in some ways, challenging in others. Instead of chasing perfection, you appreciate what's already in front of you. And then comes another humbling moment. You realize you are actually not the easiest person to live with either. Instead of pretending otherwise, you start being upfront about your quirks. Turns out, honesty makes relationships much easier. You also stop being so hard on yourself. Instead of replaying every mistake, you learn to forgive yourself. You wouldn't spend years criticizing a friend for one bad decision, so why do it to yourself? Maturity doesn't mean getting rid of your inner child. You accept that sometimes you'll be a little impatient, a little irrational, a little stubborn. And instead of fighting it, you treat yourself with kindness, just like you would with an actual child. You stop expecting happiness to be some grand, life-changing event. Instead, you start appreciating the little things, a good conversation, a quiet evening, a moment of peace. And that's when you realize, happiness is actually made up of small moments, not huge milestones. You also stop worrying so much about what people think of you, not because you don't care, but because you realize that most people are too caught up in their own thoughts to be analyzing yours. As long as you and the people who truly matter accept you, that's enough. You let go of the idea that success and recognition will bring you peace. And instead, you focus on love, connection, and meaning. And surprisingly, that's where real happiness starts to show up. You also get better at hearing feedback. Instead of assuming every criticism is an attack, you take a moment to consider that maybe, just maybe, there's something useful in what's being said. You recognize that your past influences the way you see the world, and sometimes, your first reaction isn't the most accurate one. So instead of trusting every impulse, you pause. You reflect. You learn to navigate your own mind with a little more care. Friendship becomes less about impressing people, and more about being real. You realize that the most meaningful connections come not from sharing your successes, but from sharing your struggles, because that's what makes us feel truly understood. And finally, you start finding joy in the little things. A walk outside, a pet curled up next to you, the stars in the night sky. Because in the end, emotional maturity isn't about having all the answers. It's about learning to live with the questions, and still finding ways to enjoy the ride. Enjoyed the video? Support us with a like and subscribe to the channel